Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm actually representing my Salamangreat deck. This is more towards the way I wanted to build it originally anyway. Last time was more of a low budget option, just kind of like give you guys an idea of like how the deck should look. But this time I went back. I actually wanted to try out some new theories and tested them out on YGO Pro and found one in particular that really seemed to work out the best out of all my theories. And mainly because like there's a lot of new side card options that people are using. I know I'm well familiar of the Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, which is really strong. If I had it, I would run it myself, but I don't. Same with Infinite Impermanence. So this deck is on a higher budget, but I'm still like showing some cheaper options than those cards. Um, and another side option that tends to hurt this deck is Danko Seka, and not just on Salamangreat, it hurts Sky Striker, it hurts Ultra Kai, Subterra Guru Control. So I'm trying to find a way to like bypass those weaknesses, make this deck stronger, be able to handle those, and still remain in control because this deck relies on a control-based strategy. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you guys today. So starting off, I'm playing 3 copies of Gazelle. This is basically your 1-card combo. This can get you a +3. Lets you send any of your Salamangreat cards. Mainly you want to send your Spinny or your Trap. But depending on how your hand looks, you definitely want to send Spinny. Gives you your Link Summon, your rank 3 play all in one turn. And you can also get Sunlight Wolf, which can help you recur your resources. So yeah, which comes to our next card, Salamangreat Spinny. This card is a free summon if it's in your graveyard, and you can also discard it. And I forgot to mention with Gazelle, if any of your Salamangreat cards hit the grave, or mainly your monsters, you can special summon it for free. But yeah, Spinny's great. It's actually my favorite out of all of them, just because, he's a lizard. And yeah, it just looks pretty cool overall. It also has a hand effect where you can like discard it, and you can target one of your monsters and give it 500 extra attack points. Next up, playing 3 copies of Foxy. I may bump this down to 2 because against Danger Thunder, you don't really want to play too many search cards, as I learned, and Foxy has also got a good graveyard effect as well, but you can only use one of his 2 effects once per turn. So the first effect is that if he's normal summoned, you can basically do a Pot of Duality based effect where you look at the top 3 cards of your deck to add a Salamangreat card to add to your hand. And the second effect, which helps you out Floodgates, you can discard 1 Salamangreat card, special summon this card, and pop 1 face-up spell or trap. So definitely comes in handy. For the 1 of Salamangreats, I'm playing 1 Jack Jaguar. This card is amazing in its own right. Brings itself back and also replenishes resources too by shuffling them back to the deck. You can also do the same thing for your extra deck too, so it really comes in handy. It's a free summon and it does piercing damage. We got Falco, which resets any of your Salamangreat spells and traps if it hits the grave, and it also is a free summon, so you can bounce back one of your Gazelles, for example, add it back to your hand, and special summon this card for free. So yeah, and they're both level 4, so you can also get into some rank 4s. Next up, playing 3 copies of Lady Debug, which I'm also thinking about running down to 2. I know people say like you should run it at 3, but here's the thing. I realized that this card is actually your worst normal summon. Yeah, it's a Stratos, which is amazing. This card is a great card, don't get me wrong, I like it. But if someone ashes you and you don't have any of your other combo pieces, then this card is actually kind of useless. But I'm actually thinking about like filling in the blanks if I do decide to go the 2 and 2 route with Foxy and Debug with cards like Salamangreat Fowl, which can help chain block Gazelle. Salamangreat Raccoon as well, bring it back because it's a hand trap in its own right. But again, I'm still kind of testing this out some more. I want to see like how this deck runs, and if it's good enough, then I'll keep it as is. But if I want to try out those other extended pieces, then I definitely want to consider running those instead. Next up, speaking of actually extenders, I'm running 2 copies of Crusader Reclusia. This card is actually really good in this deck. It's a fire level 3 spellcaster, so it can get around cards like There Can Only Be One, or even Macrocosmo. So basically, you can normal or special summon this card to a link arrow to any, no matter whose it is, if it's available to your monster zone. Summon it, and you can have it pop itself and destroy 1 face-up spell or any, actually not any face-up, but any card on your opponent's side of the field. And the fact that it's level 3 can also give you a Mirage Stalio as well, so really comes in handy when it needs to. So it's like an additional version of MST, basically. Moving on, for hand traps, I'm only playing 7, actually. 3 Ash, 2 Droll, and 2 Veiler. Reason I'm not running as many hand traps as some other builds are doing, because I found that running too many hand traps can be bad for this deck, because like if you don't have any other follow-up plays, then your hand traps are basically become dead. I'm sorry, and your opponent, like, sometimes you might deal with like back row decks like Ultra Guys or Subterra Guru Control, where sometimes the hand traps can be fairly ineffective sometimes. So I felt like this was the correct number. I may bump Droll up to 3. I'll still figure that out, but for now, I felt like this was the best number because you don't want to see too many hand traps at once. Ash is the only one I'd rather play at 3 because you can replenish it thanks to Sunlight Wolf. But yeah, I try not to run too many because, again, they can be dead if you don't have the correct combo pieces you need, or if you just don't have a follow play in general. Opening up too many can break you out and you basically just lose the game. Alright, so moving on to spells. I'm playing 3 copies of Circle. This is your Rhoda, and what's cool about this card is that you can drop it on your draw phase, and your opponent can't draw in Logbird because, you know, it's draw phase. It literally says that the card can't be used during the draw phase. 3 Called by the Grave. Amazing card. It's just comes in handy whenever it needs to. You don't want hand traps to really hurt you. Of course, it doesn't work on permanents, but you can easily play around that too. 2 Forbidden Chalice, which is a cheaper version of Forbidden Chalice. It also goes in tangent with Salamangreat Violet Chimera, which is basically my deck's win condition. But you don't have to run it. It's kind of optional. So, I don't know. It's just me. I just prefer to play this right now. 2 Twin Twisters, just because, you know, you can also trigger off Gazelle if you discard one of your Salamangreat monsters. So, and it's a good way to get rid of back row, so it's kind of a plus on your own right. So, yeah. Alright, so for the 1-ofs, I'm playing 1 Sanctuary. That's all you ever need because you can protect it with Bale Links. 1 Will, the Salamangreat. You can run it at 2 if you so choose, but I think 1 is more than enough. It's basically a Monster Reborn / Soul Charge. So, yeah, you definitely want to be able to fill up your board and link climb as best as you can. 1 Fusion of Fire, which goes really well together with Will of the Salamangreat sometimes. So, yeah, Fusion of Fire is a good card. And it's also a Salamangreat card, so it's searchable through Foxy. And you can pitch it away with Gazelle and reset it with Falco, so it's a really good card. And it's kind of a pseudo Super Poly because you can use monsters on both sides of the field. Alright, so moving on to traps. I'm playing 2 copies of Roar, just because, like, in case if I end up losing one with its banishment effect, or it resets itself, then I'll at least have a second one as backup. So, yeah, but it negates anything, and it just really comes in handy. 1 Rage, it's broken. If you have a link monster that was summoned with itself, like you linked it away with itself, you can destroy up to the same number of cards as that monster's link rating, so really, really good. Originally, I was running a Solemn package, mainly 3 strikes, and then I switched it out to running all the Solemn cards, but I found that Solemn Strike can be fairly ineffective right now because, again, Denko Sekka. It basically keeps me from using it. And also, I also found that Strike just isn't as good as the other ones, like Warning and Judgment, which comes to our last 2 traps, by the way. So Warning and Judgment. I felt like these were more important because, like, in case your opponent does happen to Denko Sekka, and again, it's not just Danger Thunder that's running it. A lot of other decks are using it in their sides. Same thing with Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. You definitely want to cancel out the summons. And Judgment negates everything, so I felt like that was good. Like, it negates summons and negates spells and traps. And you can just activate it at any given time. So, yeah, out of the 3 or technically there's 4, but I'll just say 3 because no one really runs Scolding right now. I think these 2 are the best ones. Because, again, your opponent loses a normal summon and they can't really do anything about it, so, yeah. So that's 41 cards in the main deck. Let's go and move over to this extra deck real quick. So starting off, I'm playing 2 copies of Salamangreat Heat Leo. I think 2 is more than enough because he's not really key to your strategy. But he's definitely good because, you know, goes really well with Violet Chimera. He shuffles back row to the deck, and yeah, it's just really good. It just helps weaken your opponent's monsters too. Next up, 3 Sunlight Wolf. This is your most important card. Definitely want to run it at 3. I know it's spiked up in price, but if you happen to have 3 already, then great. Keep them. So anytime a monster is summoned to one of its link arrows, you get a free fire monster back from your grave, but you can't summon it on the turn. It's added back, or for the duration of the turn, rather. But it's a good way to restore your Ash Blossoms or any other of your combo pieces that you can use later. And also, if you linked it away with itself, you can restore one of your Salamangreat spells or traps and add it back to your hand. Next step, 3 Baelings. Pretty important. You always want to have at least 1 in your graveyard at a time. That way you can have its Return of the Dragonlord's effect. I try not to stack up too many of them at a time because if you do, your opponent called by the graze them, and yeah, you're kind of stuck without a Baelings to use. So yeah. For the 1-ofs, playing 1 Nightmare Phoenix. It's fire attribute and it also protects your Sunlight Wolf from battle, so you might as well run it. 1 Hita, which really comes in handy for like mainly mirror matches, but if your opponent happens to spring a Ash Blossom on you at any given point, and you summon this card, you can summon back that Ash Blossom since it's level 3, give yourself a free Mirage Stalio, so really excellent card. And the good thing about Hita is that it requires just 2 monsters, and only 1 of them has to be a fire monster. So, and I know Raw Sphere Mode is going to be a popular side card to use again, so if you happen to have Gazelle already and you summon that out, Sphere Mode, just link away Sphere Mode and Gazelle, you get yourself a free Hita. So, yeah. And lastly, 1 Borlo Dragon, just to out certain boards and just take control of my opponent's monsters. I don't have Sword, sadly, but, you gotta work with what you got, And honestly, you don't really need Sword, in my opinion. As long as you got, like, your Violet Chimera, I think you're pretty much good to go. Moving on to the Xyz, I'm running 2 Mirage Stalio. This is basically a compulsory evacuation device if you use it as link material. And helps you summon one of your Salamangreat cards for free as long as you detach an Xyz material. Got 1 Baguska. Might go back and forth to switch out with the Bitch Dweller. I'm still debating on this, but Baguska is really good because it hurts certain decks to where they can't really properly set up their boards right, so Baguska comes in handy, especially against the mirror match. 1 Violet Chimera. Can tap the attack points of the monsters you use to summon it. Just until the end of the turn, though, but the cool thing about it is that when it engages in battle, if the monster it attacks, or the monster it battles, rather, if its attack points are different than its original attack points, its attack points become double. So you basically can OTK with this card fairly effectively. It's basically the easiest OTK rather than the Update Jammer and Transcode Togger. Yeah, I like that one too, but I just prefer Violet Chimera out of those two, honestly. Alright, so moving on to my side deck now. This one was a little tricky to work with, but I finally figured out what I wanted to use. So my deck is a going first deck. In fact, Salamangreat is always a deck that goes first. You want to run Raw Sphere Mode in case you're forced to go second, like Crusadia Guard Dragon. That deck is so strong and scary. You definitely want to get rid of their negate boards because they usually fill up their boards with 3 negates with a Crystal Wing, an FA Dawn Dragster. I think they also put Nat Beast if I'm not mistaken. So Raw Sphere Mode definitely comes in handy. It just forces them from using them all their resources. So like their board was just kind of built for nothing. This also gets around Pendulum Magicians. And soon maybe that Endymion Pendulum Magician because they turbo out the hell out of those mythical beasts, and you don't want to have to deal with so many negates. So Raw Sphere Mode really comes into play whenever you need it to. Against Sky Strikers, I'm running 2 Dogoran just because Kaiju's really hurt that deck. They can't activate their back row if they have a monster in their main monster zone, so it just gives you time to get rid of their back row a little at a time with Heat Leo or Twin Twisters. So, yeah, and Dogoran's also pretty funny because, if you use Mirage Stalio, you can bounce it back to your hand and get rid of another one of your opponent's monsters. So, yeah, really strong card. 1 Super Poly in case if I need it, mainly for mirror matches, so that's the only times I ever bring it out, but I don't really run a second Violet Chimera, there's really no need to. So, yeah. Alright, so for the traps on the side deck, I was planning on main decking one of these, but I decided against it and just side them out whenever I have to. Against Danger Thunder Dragon, Rivalry of the Warlords is literally the best floodgate you can use against that deck because the Dangers are different types and it's really hard for them to go to turbo off because they can't get so many monsters out at a time. It also hurts their Chaos plays with that new Chaos Dragon. I forgot its name actually, but y'all should know what I'm talking about. To deal with Altergeist or Sky Strikers, even Rivalry, or actually not Rivalry doesn't work well against Altergeist because they play themselves, but against Sky Strikers that works too. But against Altergeist, Goes in Match is definitely good because their monsters have different attributes, so you definitely want to hurt them as much as you can. I think this also works well against Sky Strikers if I'm not mistaken. Just let me know in the comments. I think it does work well because their monsters are different attributes too, and I don't think they can summon so many at a time. So Goes in Match definitely helps out too. And then Red Reboot. The reason I'm not main decking Goes in, by the way, guys, is Danger Dark, not Danger Dark World, but Danger Thunder. They can actually play around Goes in because their whole deck's primarily dark. but Rivalry will definitely be the better choice out of the two. But again, it just really depends on my matchup, what I'm up against, so that's why I'm rather just citing them out than rather just taking the gamble and main decking them and finding that they have no use in my deck right now. But anyway, Red Reboot, to deal with, Subterra Guru Control, that deck is really strong, has a really good matchup against Salamangreat. Altergeist, I don't like Altergeist that much because they play so many floodgates against me and negations, but generally they're not too difficult to deal with. As long as you get rid of their back row, you're pretty much solid. And Paleozoic Frogs are still powerful. A lot of people tend to overlook that deck. I hate that deck, honestly. I really do not like Paleo Frog, so I'd rather not get shut down from them and have my cards disrupted, so yeah. Well, anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. I really hope you all enjoyed this deck profile, and I'll catch you guys again next time.